Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Eric Weber is the Director of MSP Sales for MindMatrix. At MindMatrix, Eric helps managed service providers and other IT companies grow by providing an all-around solution to help with their marketing and sales needs. Please welcome Eric Weber.
We do our best. Thanks everybody for taking some time here this afternoon. I don't know if you want to stand up, stretch out. Hope everybody is learning lots here. I know we're kind of on like information overload here, so I really just wanted to kind of take a step back from a macro level, really keep things kind of simple. For the past 15 years, I've had 2 jobs. I don't count the 6-month stint between these 2 jobs with a startup that didn't work, so I like to think there is some methodology to my madness here. So with that being said, there we go. So here's what we kind of want to take a step back from. Like I said, I want to keep it simple. You know, it's really about keeping that sales and marketing command center. You know, over the past 7.5 years here at MindMatrix, I would say I've done between, if I had to guesstimate, 2,500 and 3,000 demos. So there's so many different ways you can get down the rabbit hole with this. And for most, you know, in managed services, you know, you're IT focused. That's your, you know, your expertise there. It's not really sales and marketing sometimes, but it's an important component. I know of myself, if I were looking for a managed service provider or trying to look for cyber insurance or whatever it is, there's lots of stuff you can Google out there, and sometimes it all sounds pretty good, and at the end of the day, you just want to like pull your hair out because you don't know which way to go. So like Michael Michaelowicz said yesterday, you know, essentially all people are kind of the same. You know, if you're going to do open heart surgery, you know, your heart's not in your foot. You know, it's pretty much here for everybody. So for a lot of companies, having that sales and marketing apparatus is very similar as well too. You know, you got 3 different components here: business development and lead generation, sales outreach in the process, and then marketing. Keeping that consistency here. And I think, you know, you need to do all 3 simultaneously to make it work. We got any golfers in the room? Anybody? Okay, good. Me too. I try to anyway. But you need 3 components of that. You got to drive, you have to have your irons, and you have to putt. You can't do 2 of the 3 or 1 of the 3 in order to play around. You have to do all of them. So that's really what I want to break down here. First step, biz dev and lead gen. Second, reaching out to people, managing all your stuff so you can stay organized, and then the marketing component of it. Those are the 3 things we're just going to talk about here today from an extremely high level. So, there we go. Getting people. We need targets. We need people to sell to. Where do we get them at? Just like investing, you want to diversify your different sources here. You can't be all stuck in just, hey, I just go to events only. COVID happens, you can't go to events. Guess what? You know, you're sunk then. What do you do? So, I mean, you wouldn't have all your 401k in one stock or one sector, because if that goes in the toilet, you know, the 401k is pretty much riding down with it there. So you want to spread them out. And I'm not saying you have to do all of these here, but a couple of them. You know, if somebody comes to your website, it should be engageable. You know, is there a place where you can download some things? And not just the click here to contact us or, you know, click here to get a free assessment, but maybe a case study that you wrote up on, you know, how you helped your last client out with this potential problem. Hey, they got hacked. Here's what we did. Here was the result at the end of the day. You know, you want to have something with a semi-sexy topic on there so they are willing to give you their information and download something. Those, to me, they're kind of like the gold standard because, hey, you know there's a need. You know, you want to turn that contact into an opportunity. And you know the timing's probably good as well, too, because they're on there and they're willingly giving you their information. But also contact lists. I mean, hey, I've bought in cold lists before as well, too. In fact, when I first started here, I only had forms on the website and a cold list that I called through. You know, the boss told me, sell and we'll spend more money and start to do other things. So it was kind of motivation there. So as I brought more in, that's when we started getting into the events and the sponsorship. Now, getting a form fill on the site's nice, but that's one of one. when I look for business development, I want to hunt the barrel of fish, like here. Like here, we got a whole room full of people right now. We got a whole, show full of people out there as well too. So whether you're, IT managed services for healthcare, IT managed services for finance, if you can focus in on a couple of different verticals there, Google what's around you. Are there any events that you can go to and sponsor? Or even if you don't want to lay the money out to start, see if you can at least walk it to see, hey, is it worth maybe, putting down some money here at the end of the day? That's what we've done for all of our shows that we've sponsored. We walked them first. Is the juice worth the squeeze? And then if we see that, hey, enough people are here, yeah, okay, maybe we'll sponsor. Then the next year, maybe we up the sponsorship a little bit where we have a speaking engagement, just to get the most out of it and really complement what you're doing. There's also local networking. Anybody here belong to the Chamber of Commerce locally? Excellent. I'm going to be honest, I've never been to one of those events, but from what other people have told me, you can get lists sometimes, and that's great for word of mouth, great for a referral there. You meet somebody, hey, I have a problem here. Well, I know John, he did my work for this. Let me introduce you to him. That's where people get together and they mingle around. AdWords and pay-per-click, kind of like digital billboards. I drive by billboards every day on my way home from lunch. You never know what's going to call in or what you're going to get, but it's a way to keep your business and what you do out there. It's just another piece of the pie, really. SEO, want to make sure the site's good, backlinks, keywords, and so forth. And then, yeah, word of mouth and referrals. But really, having a good mixture of all of those are going to create contact data. People that you want to get in touch with, that you can filter down and then reach out to, which really brings me into the second piece of the puzzle. Got to get these people on the phone. Is it an opportunity? Is it not an opportunity? Now, I'm not saying this here is the holy grail to getting somebody on the phone, but it's one possible way of what it could look like. Let's say first thing, John Smith fills out a form. All right, well, hey, is John the right guy? Check him out on LinkedIn. For me, I want to talk to either the owner, sales VP, marketing VP, anybody in around there. If it's a systems administrator, I'm probably still going to call the guy, but at least I know, hey, there might be another piece of the puzzle here. Hey, who is the right guy to talk to? After that, I'm going to pick up the phone and give him a call. I'm not going to do this with everybody, especially not the cold stuff. Only stuff that is reaching a certain level. There's just not enough time in the day unless you have a business development rep or a salesperson that is specifically assigned to this. If you don't, you take the cream of the crop. If you do, that's what you're paying them for, to go through all of this and kind of filter out and see who's a legitimate opportunity here. But if you get their voicemail, what's your message? It should be the same thing every time. If they pick up, what are your questions? If anybody here has ever met with an attorney before, they sit down, they open up their little leather thing, pull out a piece of paper, there's their job aid. They ask you questions because that's important. You should have something there to filter that as well too. Because maybe they're not a fit for you. Especially if you have a business development rep or a salesperson, and as they are training, I'm sure you're going to be on demos with them until they know what the heck they're doing. But you don't want them setting crummy appointments for you, because that's going to be a waste of your time. And also, that's how they learn. Or if you get a gatekeeper, what are the rebuttals? That gatekeeper's job is to keep you away from the main guy. That's why they get paid, and to organize the calendar too. But you want to make them feel important. Like, hey, I know you have access to John's calendar here, but I'm sure you might know some things about this too. Make them feel important, pump them up a little bit. They may give you the answers, and hey, might not be worth it. Or at least they may let you know, like, hey, he takes calls before 9 a.m. and after 5 p.m. Here's when you can call back. Okay, great. But if they don't pick up, what's your email that you're going to follow up with? It doesn't have to be your life story. Just like, hey, saw there was interest, wanted to reach out. We do items A, B, C, and D. Love to set some time up. Make sure that there's that call to action there. I'll be following up in a few days, so they're coming back at you. And now, step number 4, that could kind of vary. Maybe you might wait one day. I always waited a one day. I always tried to get people 6, 7 times within like a 2-3 day period. That way they know, hey, I'm trying to get in touch with you. Now, like I said before, I mean, that doesn't have to be the exact thing right there, but you can also expand on it. You know, maybe after, you don't hear from them, what's your no response call and email going to be? You know, what's your voice message going to be on that? Or maybe you're not going to leave a voice message. What's your email you're going to send? You know, maybe you wait a day, or again, like I did, I just do it all in the same one here. Have a case study that you can send. Something similar to what they were interested in. Or if it's cold stuff, you just send anything at that point. The idea is to keep what you do and your company logo in front of them on a regular basis. They know you're trying to get in touch with. If they're not interested, you're either not going to hear from them or they're going to tell you. I mean, in a perfect world, I want to get a yes or a no out of everybody. You know, if I get 100 contacts here, if I have, 1 yes and 99 no's, I'm fine with that because then I know I need more contacts. But we're not in a perfect world, unfortunately. I might have 1 yes, 9 no's, and have no clue what's going on with the other 90. So I need a way to stay in touch with those people. This year really helped me learn how to ramp up here at MindMatrix, just having like a format like this. My previous job before here, I worked in the education field, so completely different of what managed services are. In fact, I had no clue what an MSP was when I started here. But the boss knew I had a system. He knew I knew how to prospect and find people. He knew that I knew how to reach out to folks, qualify them to set up an appointment, demo them. If it made sense, send a proposal, and then close them or mark it as a close lost. Rinse, wash, and repeat. So that's why he hired me. He's like, I'll teach you all this other stuff. He goes, you already got the process down. You know what you're doing. So that helped out a lot. So I wasn't down at his door every 5 minutes like, hey, this guy asked this. What do I do here? He said that. What do I send him? It's like, go to the playbook, Eric. And that's what I use to actually teach our business development reps as well, too. That way, if one of them has been there 4 years or 4 months, they're all doing the same thing. There is that unified approach. Anybody here have business development reps that make outreach calls? Okay. All right. Excellent. I know sometimes it's hard to, that's a tough gig. It's a lot of pounding the phone, a lot of dialing. I think they max out about 12 months before you just get burnout, and then it's time to replace them with somebody else. So having something that you can plug and play makes a lot of sense. I think I maxed out about maybe 12 months, but those are good people to move into a sales role then. Because if they can get that part down and you want to move them up, know that, hey, there's a promotion waiting for you. Because if you can cut this, I mean, heck, the rest of it's easy street after that. It's really just ramping them up. My younger brother, he started off in a position where he would scrape Google Maps to find people to set for an outside rep. And they eventually moved him into a sales role after that, and then an account management, but he just continually progressed up there. And I always told him, when you get on the phone with somebody, just remember this: 2 guys in a bar, 2 people sitting beside each other, just talking like this. Nobody wants to be presented to that we're going to learn all the stuff on here. That's the quickest way to tune somebody out. Just have a basic conversation. Now, to kind of complement and build off of the previous one there, who here works with multiple verticals? All right. Well, you're going to talk to a doctor's office differently than you would a manufacturing company. Have vertical specific outreach processes. 2 different conversations, probably different sets of questions on there. That way, again, everybody's on the same page as far as what they're doing. You don't want to overdo it with some, you don't want to underdo it with others, and you don't want them to fall through the cracks. Because business development and lead generation, it's expensive. You want to squeeze every dollar you can out of something. I love it when I still get something from, Build IT in 2019. And it's like, hey, can we revisit this again? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. That makes me happy. Because I know we're still getting an ROI out of, money spent 3 years ago. And then same for account management. Anybody have account managers? Just fully focused clients only. Okay, good. You know how best to work with your clients then. It doesn't have to be as long and drawn out as the initial one there, but maybe 2 or 3 steps or maybe 4 steps. Just something basic like that. So it's the same thing all the time. And then your clients will start to get used to that as well too. Like, hey, they're gonna call me 3 or 4 times before it's up to me to get back on the horse and get in touch with them again. And I know in the doctor's office calls, I'm like, I'm getting about 3 attempts, and then it's up to me, or hey, that's on me if I don't get back in touch with them. All right. Now after that, I remember last year, Gary V, he said, sales without marketing is bullshit. And I agree with him, 100%. If you're gonna do all that work and then you're not gonna stay in front of these people afterwards, I mean, you might as well just throw the leads in the garbage and just start fresh every time. Content and consistency, I mean, that is the hallmark of marketing right there. It's people seeing your logo and what you do on a regular basis. That's why commercials are still relevant. That's why big companies like Coke and Pepsi, they will pay $10 million for a 30-second spot in the Super Bowl. They want to be relevant. Geico, 15 minutes or less will save you 15%. Now, not everybody in here has a $1 billion ad budget to be able to do what those big companies do. So we need to do it on a much simpler, more economical scale. We want to take the leads that we're getting, that we've reached out to. Hey, if we got in touch with them and closed them, awesome, you know. But if we don't, how are we going to cultivate that so that you're still getting, you know, outreaches a couple years later? There's a couple ways to do it. You know, obviously, social media automation is one. It has a very, very short shelf life, probably about a day, 2 days. You know, I give my logins to the companies, so whatever they're pushing out on a daily basis gets rerouted through my LinkedIn, so it looks like I'm doing something when I'm not really doing anything at all. But hey, perception's reality. My job is just to connect with the people that I want to do business with, so whether they're logging into LinkedIn every day or only 3 days a month, there's always something for me in there. And I think I got about 12,000 people in my database right now. It's impossible to keep in touch with everything, especially when you're doing a couple of demos per day. You know, you got to divide and conquer your time appropriately. Marketing automation's another one. You know, there's a lot of things out there. Our stuff, HubSpot, Marketo, ActiveCampaign, SharpSpring. I mean, there's plenty of options to choose from. But you want to send something out there on a regular basis. I think I send mine out like once every 10 or 14 days. It's something in the mix in there. But again, I know nobody's going to read that email and think, oh my God, I've seen the light. I got to call Eric right now. I'm ready to sign up. No, decent subject line, our logo. I want to be in the right place all the time. You know, and that email is going to be extremely short, non-sales, you know, 2-3 sentences, nothing crazy. You know, maybe there's a white paper they can download from it. So I'm tracking all the activity anyway. And reaching out to people. How do you score all the activity? And I speak with some people sometimes like, yeah, so if they open the email, I should call them, right? I'm like, no. Now, if they've opened it 50 times, yeah, you want to get in touch with them. You know, just because somebody opened up something doesn't mean they're ready to do it. So I only get a notification when somebody hits a certain level. Again, you know, your time is important. You know, you can't get in touch with everybody. You want to call the best of the bunch here. You know, when they cross a certain level or you perform a particular task. You know, maybe if they signed up for your newsletter, you get a special alert for that. Or if they went onto your cybersecurity page and clicked on some certainly, you know, maybe you want to get an alert for that. Something that lets you know, hey, this is worth my time to get in touch with him. That's what we want to focus on. You know, I mean, there's nothing, I don't think there's anything earth-shattering about what I'm telling you here today, but it's being organized and keeping things simple and really just making the most use out of your time. I think the biggest thing for me that has helped me within sales over the last 20 years is being organized. You know, I don't waste a lot of time on the frivolous stuff. You know, if I do, there's no way I'm going to hit my numbers or make the type of money that I want to make. More organization. So I have an asset repository that I use. I kind of use like 2 different ones. I have a bunch of folders on my desktop. Well, actually, I link it to a shared file, so if my computer blows up, which it did once, I'm not completely screwed. And then I use our system to organize some things as well too. But I know where all my e-guides are, all my email templates that I use quite heavily, everything's sorted like, hey, this is services stuff, this is sales stuff. trade show and webinar stuff. Here's my couple of e-guides and case studies that I use. I don't want to be digging for stuff. You know, again, it's time management that it comes down to. But for every company I've worked for, you know, which has only been, I think, maybe 4 or 5, but it's pretty much the same. You got to find people. You have to reach out to them. And then you got to stay in front of them afterwards. You know, it's like that at IBM. It's like that, I'm sure, you know, IT by Design. It's like that with us. You know, it's like Michael said, it's essentially the same for every company here. And that's what I really wanted to take a step back from and just keep this at its most simplistic thing. I mean, you can go down the rabbit hole with all of this. I mean, with lead generation, there's a million different things you can find out there. You know, with sales, there's a million different ways you can reach out to these people. Same with the marketing, many different ways that you can do it. But you gotta do all 3 in sync, just like a golf game. You know, pitch, iron, and drive. Or putt, iron, and drive. And then depending on what you're using, I mean, you can sync this up to your CRM. You know, if you have an external system that doesn't do it, I have some clients that like, hey, I want to keep everything separate here. That way I'm keeping it clean. Some want everything in one. If you're using a CRM, you know, it helps to have everything in one spot, I think. You know, at least, again, from a contact and content management standpoint. But again, there's not really a wrong way to do things. It's sort of personal preference. Takeaway. So, I know everybody has kind of been on information overload here today. So, I always try to remember at least, you know, 1 or 2 things that I can take away from a trade show. All right, and then apply that to my life once I get back. Because we're all in learning mode right now, but once we get back in, tickets come in, you know, wife's calling about something or this, that, and the other, we fall back into our same routines. So who here is flying out tomorrow? All right. So I want you to do me a favor. Take out your phones. Everybody has a calendar in their phone. The one thing that you got from this show, it doesn't have to be from this session. If it is, great, awesome. But the one thing that you learned, you want to make sure that you implement that next week. About 20 minutes before your flight's about to go off, write that down. Because when you're sitting there at the gate and you're waiting, you're not doing anything. You're just waiting like, all right, when's it going to go out? What's on the Twitter feed? What's on emails here? Pick a time out next week in your calendar. Block off 30 minutes, you know, put, you know, do not call, you know, emergency, I'm totally unavailable here. And take that idea that you got here from this show, write down a couple things, start to implement it. You know, it's really about developing that routine and then putting it into action. You know, otherwise, what's the whole point of coming here and being here? You know, you're here to learn a lot, but you got to put it into action, and we always fall behind on that. I mean, hey, I'm guilty of it myself. I've done it a million times. But if you were to see my calendar, I mean, it looks like a chaotic craziness. It's all color-coded and there's everything going on in it, but I get stuff done doing it. You know, that is the biggest thing. I use the technology that I got in my pocket, that I have in my hands here, because if I don't execute it, I mean, again, it's all kind of pointless here. But how are we doing on time? Still good? All right, awesome. Anybody have any questions? Open up a little Q&A. I finished a little better than I thought I would. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
We have a sales staff on the ISP side, we have an ISP, but they're not trained on ISP at all. And that was a good learning curve. Is there a good resource for training sales staff on MSP on resources?
Yeah, so I mean, I know there's some people here like Gary Pica, True Methods, on the actual, like when you're sitting down, like, hey, what are your issues? Cybersecurity, this. Here's how you sell cyber. Pica's a good reference there. Obviously, we have the infrastructure inside to put that stuff into. I know Robin Robbins has done stuff. We have consultants that help as well too, like Megan, that you know, they kind of give the ideas on there on what other MSPs are doing that we work with. That, you know, they've seen works and stuff that they see that doesn't work too. I mean, we want to help you avoid any potholes if possible. But yeah, I mean, definitely, it's something, if we don't know it or we don't do it, we point you in the right direction for it. Absolutely. Anyone else? Yes. Yeah, so kind of a multiple-pronged approach. You know, after I've demoed somebody, I'll usually try and connect with them on LinkedIn. You know, not always do they accept the invite right away, but after I've followed up, I mean, I myself have like an after demo playbook, you know, and I reach out, you know, 4 or 5 times, and I don't do that one day. Otherwise, they'd be like, this guy's crazy. But yeah, yeah, like a drip campaign. Drip emails, social media. After they've gone through a certain campaign, you know, it's time to sit there and kind of look at the reporting. I'm like, well, who finished it? Who do I still don't have anything? And then look at what they're doing. You know, their score is going to tell the truth. I mean, if they continually open stuff up, then great, they're still on the hook. But if you see like email sent, and they're not opening anything and it's gone cold, then I'll still keep them on one because the software is doing the work. But that's where I kind of determine where am I going to pivot at on this one. But I'm going to stay in front of them until they click unsubscribe or, you know, go away, or until I hear like an emphatic no at least twice. Yeah, I'm going to use the software to stay in front of them. And then depending on what they do, that's when you manual efforts like, hey, you know, just checking in from time to time, or pass off to a business development rep and see what they can do. So I sort of use a mixture of the BDRs, myself, and the nurturing campaigns, you know, to stay in front of folks until I get a yes or a no. Yes.
So
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
So regarding vertical specific outreach
Mhm.
playbooks,
Yeah.
at what point would you recommend customizing the provider persona? So for instance, the way you interact with a manufacturing company versus say a biopharma, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be different, but the way you interact with an operation, with someone in operations leadership versus a CISO is going to be different,
Right.
So at what point do you segment it into a different playbook, or do you just adjust tone? Like, what's your best practice for that?
So what I would do in that situation is I would actually build out the different playbooks, because depending on, I mean, there's not going to be too much on there that you're going to have to switch around except for a few words here and there, maybe a couple of different questions to put into it. But having that all ready to go, I mean, chance favors the prepared. You know, that way if it's, you know, the CISO that showed the interest there, or if it was the CEO, that way that rep is going to know, hey, where should I take this conversation at? You know, to try and get that appointment set up. And then that could help you prepare, you know, for the demo more obviously as well. But I mean, heck yeah, I would have, you know, 4, 5, 6, 10 playbooks if you need in there, you know, depending on what the situation is going to dictate. Yes, sir.
One roadblock I keep running into is building a list for my drip market.
Mm-hmm.
I know the companies that I want to work with in our target area, narrow that down to a lot of these, but I'm having trouble figuring out how do I get the contacts from those companies in there, get their emails into a drip campaign. I can buy lists, but any list I look at seems to be garbage.
Yeah. We've had some success with Zoom Info and Seamless AI. We've used a combination of that because on our channel side of the house, where we work with a lot of vendors and build their partner relationship management portals, I think we've got everything that we're looking for. Now it's just a matter of like getting these guys on the phone. Like I think we've run out of where like target people. So I know that they've been taking some extra special time digging in there. It's like, all right, is this the right contact for that? You know, is it John Smith, you know, the channel marketing manager that we need to get in touch with? And they've been pretty decent. I think they're a little more on the pricey side, but at least you know you have the right folks then. And one thing, and I don't know if they do this or not, but if the information is incorrect, will they give you a credit for it? So it's like, hey, I got paid for 100 names, but you know, 20 were garbage. Like, are you going to give me 20 more to make up for that? I would definitely make sure on that. That way, I mean, even if you're spending more, then you're getting your money's worth, you know, and then stay in front of those folks.
So the little follow-up to that too is my understanding of like the cam spam app is you're not, I can't just find an email and start emailing someone like that. I need them to subscribe to it, or can I just
You can, but it's not something, it's not a best practice. Really, what's going to give you the most out of that is if they have said, yes, send me something. But that's why, like with our business development team, we try to make the outreach first. That way, if they pick up, they do this, we know we have the right person. Then I put them on a drip campaign, at least I'm staying in front of them, versus the cold emailing and just, throwing a bunch of stuff up at the wall and see what's going to stick with it. So it's having that, calling in, emailing combination there. I would try to call first. Obviously, if you don't have a business development rep or something like that, then it's kind of like, all right, well, maybe put them on a drip and, kind of see, but you go back and forth. I mean, you're going to figure out what works here just through trial and error. I mean, it took me a while on that as well, too. I mean, it's, like, all right, well, this doesn't work. Try that this way. Or, even with shows and events and, local networking. I mean, it took a while to get it right.
So you need to be planning some effort. It's not buying a list. You have to do
Oh, yeah.
200 emails and start emailing them.
Right.
Touch them first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think I got double opt-in, actually. I think so, yeah. Yep. Yeah, California started out being GDPR compliant. Yeah, it's a best practice. You want to get in people that want your information, but
Being careful too. Whatever tool you're using, you might not think you're being careful.
right.
So, even if you are adhering to best practices,
Have an unsubscribe button and
yeah, I mean, you don't go listen to HubSpot or something like that.
yeah,
Come back and say, hey, we're that.
yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah, even for the final takeaway, I mean, even if you're spending an hour a week, just kind of game planning this out, keep that plan on your desktop, out of sight's out of mind. And I know that prospecting, the sales isn't something we all want to do, but it's that vital part. But everybody, thank you all for your time here today. We've got a booth out there. I got some Post-it notes and free swag. Come by. Yep. I can't get rid of them, so.